Every day is a blessing, the time we spent together. All we can do is promote change, 24 hours better.
I know it's been a while, and I know it's been a little bit of time since I've actually done this whole situation where we talk and we do a podcast and we interview people and we talk about all the things that are going on. Today is kind of what brings me out of my hibernation, my hiatus, if you will. The energy here. If for those of you that don't know, I do a little bit of a pre-interview and we talk and we get to know each other just to kind of catch the vibe and up to speed. And I'm telling you, the energy and the vibe here is 10 and beyond. I don't even know how to measure that on a numeric scale, and I'm sure that my mind will be absolutely blown here. This guy, this gentleman, I'm going to say gentleman, but the proper term is doctor. Dr. Armine, by all accounts, has a mind, a brilliant mind that does things that I can't even explain. But the best I can do is talk about him addressing mitochondrial dysfunctional immune imbalances and cellular resilience, talking about how to find problems, medically find problems and break them down and dissect them to the point that not only being able to resolve issues, but to be able to communicate them to most common people so where they understand it in plain English. That is a skill set and a mindset that I am in awe for. I'm in awe for because I can't even explain to the doctor when I broke my ankle what was hurting. So so this is an amazing feat. This thing right here, I literally cracked my back. I literally cracked my back. I had to have spinal surgery, and I said my GI Joe joint, where the rubber band and the J hook connect. That's what I described it. That's exactly where I described it.
Good, very good.
Yeah, he knew exactly where I was talking about, but I couldn't explain it better than that. So
Only another guy would understand because we play GI Joe. We know where that is.
we know where that is with the little rubber band. It felt like it fell off.
Right.
So so I did injustice there, but I'm sure you will educate me more. Dr. Armine, first of all, how are you doing? What's going on in your world? And I'm so glad to have you.
I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm very grateful that you're allowing me to speak with your listeners. Things are going incredibly well. I balance my time between patient care and lecturing other doctors and lecturing, lay people. I'm in a lot of research areas and so forth. So my life is on the busy side, but it's balanced in all the things that I love to do and what I want to contribute to the world. Okay, but most of what I do in teaching is passing off this set of knowledge I have to other people. Because I'm 69 years old and I don't want this stuff to die with me. I want to give it away. So it's actually a lot of fun because I use a lot of humor when I'm teaching. Because I believe that disease is a bully, and the best way to get rid of disease is to punch it in the nose, or to laugh at it, and that's what we do.
So it's very unusual for me. I've had another doctor on the show, and it was the first time in my entire life that I ever thought about you guys having feelings. I know that's weird. I know that's like, but usually when we see you guys, it's on our worst day, it's on our worst situation, and you guys are so busy, like that little small window that we see you, we don't know that your brain is running 8,000 miles an hour, or that you're driven by passion to heal, or that you just have all that thing going on, or maybe you just had a bad moment. We don't understand all of that. And it's very difficult to process it. So giving these interviews, which again, thank you, helps me to not only realize and identify the different key elements of you being a person, you being the human element. It's something that, again, I haven't thought about in my entire life. And to see how someone as passionate as yours about breaking down these codes and these problems and these issues, it makes me feel even more inspired, not only on my next trip, knock on wood, but every time that we have conversations and that this resonates and this shines out to everybody. So again, thank you for that. Now, Now, what is it that you're doing in your practice when you're going out and doing these speeches and you're trying to deliver all this content and this message and this experience? What is it that you do now for that?
Okay. Well, if I give you a little bit of my background, you'll understand
Please.
why I feel passionate about everything. Excuse me. I've been a healthcare provider in one form or another for 50 years. I grew up in New York City, and I was an EMT paramedic in the middle 70s. And coming from a poor Italian family, I didn't think I was smart enough to be a doctor. No one ever graduated college in my family. So I went to when I met some nurses who were male nurses, as if that was a separate profession.
Yeah.
I decided to become a nurse, and I went to college for nursing. I graduated there in 1978, and I also served in the military until I think 1982, and I was a captain in the Army Nurse Corps. I took care of people, did
Thank you.
mostly emergency department work, and I was head nurse of a coronary intensive care unit. About midway through there, I decided, hey, I'm going to be a doctor because I met a lot of doctors, and I realized they weren't any smarter than me. They just had a lot more training. So I decided I wanted to be a medical doctor. And I had to do a lot of prerequisite work. So by and by, I went to a lot of conferences and I met a lot of medical doctors, and they hated what they did. Oh my God, they hated what they did. They were stressed. They were being pushed to see people, every 10, 15 minutes. They couldn't spend the time. They weren't allowed to be the doctors they were trained to be. Then I met chiropractors and they seemed to really love what they did. So I went to chiropractic school, graduated in 1986. And I practiced standard chiropractic for a bit. And I got more, it was, for me, it was a bit limiting. So I said, let me look at the wider aspects of alternative care because I went to a chiropractic school that was very science oriented. So I had an incredible background in physiology and pathology. And, we did 5 semesters of human dissection, stuff like that. We really knew the body very well. Um, as I started working with people, I noticed there was people were still sick, even though they were being told nothing was wrong. Um, and chiropractic was great, but it wasn't handling all of that. I'm a very curious guy. Sadly, one of my children developed schizophrenia, and this very intelligent young man who read Dante's Inferno at 10 years of age
Wow.
and explained it to me. I was really wondering if he was from a different planet or not, because the man was, it's like, Jesse, and it was for real. I was like, interesting. Okay. When I, being a good dad, I took him to the psychiatrist, and the medications literally made him a non-entity. He would sit on the couch doing this. Um, I'm a religious person, so I was praying, also a Christian minister, and I got really angry and said, "This disease is messing with the wrong daddy." And just like everything else in the universe, when the student's ready, the masters appear. Well, all of a sudden, all this information, all these courses got thrown in front of me, and I learned how to balance neurotransmitters. I was at the forefront of the big genetic crazes going on now. I understand all the genetics and the pathways and how to apply them. I got the first certification in something called neuroendoimmunology, which is a relationship between your nervous system and your brain, your immune system, usually the gut, and all of your hormonal system. They constantly talk to one another. I was at the forefront of learning about mitochondrial dysfunction, which means your mitochondria are like the batteries in your system. Okay.
Right.
And normally they work pretty well, but just like any other battery, if they get stressed and they don't have what they need, you'll charge them and they discharge very quickly, and it's difficult to recharge them. Well, since we're a dynamic system, when you can't, it's not like throwing away putting another one in like we do with a cell phone battery. But I found that people had this lack of energy being produced in their body. So I started looking at this, and I started looking at the genetics, and I started thinking about, why are people still sick? I applied a lot to my son. He's 38 now, and he is a full-time graphic artist. And matter of fact, he made this particular logo for me.
Awesome.
He's an incredibly brilliant guy, incredibly brilliant. I still have trouble following him when he starts pontificating, because he's somewhere else in the universe, and it's not psychosis. The man is just brilliant. Okay. I remember when he took algebra, he got all kinds of nervous, had to take medicine, and then he took calculus. He understood it. I worked with an integrated psychiatrist who's arguably one of the most brilliant women on the planet. And I called her up and said, Liz, algebra scares him and he gets nervous and he has to take Ativan, but he understands calculus. What gives? And all she said was, you ever hear Einstein? Click. It's like, okay. It's like, if people are like, he's really brilliant. I'm like, yeah. What did you do? He's him.
that that was a free consultation, so
Yeah,
consider that
really.
a good one.
I probably got a bill for it, but I didn't see it, But
Yeah, just
anyway,
keep it quick.
um, so in the process of this, I realized that people were suffering. And I was sitting there going, what the heck's going on? And I started looking, having a background in traditional medicine. I started looking about how they were looking at the body. Mind you, I am not denigrating anybody. Everybody has their good and bad, and everybody, it's what how they've been trained. I never yell at somebody doing what they've been trained to do. But in the traditional medical model, they look at you as, okay, if I take care of the root causes, then the body will take care of itself. In a chronic illness, that's not true. And they're in the 1970s, what ended up happening was all the interns were giving these books called Little Brown Spirals, and they fit into your lab coat. Okay? They were made by Little and Brown, and they were spiral bound, Little Brown Spirals. And those things, coalesced your knowledge. You followed all these algorithms. You got you ended up with an answer, and that led to a pharmaceutical protocol. Those were suggested. A few years later, those suggested algorithms and treatment became standards of care, meaning that if you break the standard of care, you are committing malpractice. So their view, they were crunched in like this, and they were being, I'm not going to say controlled, but they were being stimulated to work along a very narrow corridor. They couldn't go outside of it. By and by, it's very frustrating because I know a lot of medical doctors, and they're like, huh, I just don't know what's going on with somebody because they go down their algorithm and I don't see anything wrong. The tests are normal. So what is their conclusion finally? Is that it's in your head? Okay. I started looking and saying, you tell me that most of the population is in their head. I know we have a stressful society, but that doesn't make any sense. So I started looking the opposite way. I started looking at the base of the body, the foundation, the cell functions. Okay, like what a cell needs to work, what a cell, what you need to give a cell so that it can run its biochemical processes. Like in biochemistry, it's just enzymes that turn one thing to another, to another, to another, until you either get what you need to build stuff or you're getting rid of toxins. Okay, that's the whole idea. And those enzymes need things like cofactors, which are vitamins and minerals, to work. And their cell membranes, which nobody was paying attention to, can get disrupted, and that makes the cells become dysfunctional. And when you, if you remember like high school or something, or even grammar school, where they showed you the cell, big circle, right? They put another here. That's the nucleus. That's the brain of the cell. Okay. Then they put a little blah, 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 right? And that's the cytoplasm. It's like, okay, that's what everything is. Then they have these little circles saying, okay, those are the vacuoles. That's where the toxins go in, and the cell kicks it out. Then they drew this little racetrack and said, that's the mitochondria. That's the powerhouse of the cell. And they went on. Okay. Well, guess what? Your mitochondria gives you your energy. And without that energy, you cannot heal. Mitochondrial function is an average. Let me tell you how many there are. We have 30 trillion cells in our body. And each cell has anywhere between 200 and 2,000 mitochondria. I'm rounding things, okay? So you do the math. That's a lot of mitochondria. And so when you're talking about mitochondrial function, let's pull numbers out of the air. Okay, let's say 95% overall is good in producing your energy. That energy is called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Don't even worry about the words. It's energy. All your pathways, everything you need energy. And it's not on or off, it's percentage. So let's say you get an illness like strep throat. For a short amount of time, the mitochondrial function will drop, let's say, to 80%. You'll be tired, and when that resolves, it goes back to where it was. But in our society, we start getting toxins on a regular basis, lots of infections, and other stressors that cause the mitochondrial function to go down, down, down. So how do I know that? Okay, in 2013, a doctor, Robert Navio, who is a MD PhD, wrote a paper on something called the cell danger response. This is what cells did when they were attacked. What attacks them? Toxins. Makes sense, right? You
Right.
know, so all kinds of different toxins, xenoestrogens, and all big words, and PCBs, and yada, yada, yada. Microbes, parasites, viruses, fungi, yeast, and bacteria. And all the psychological, emotional, and spiritual traumas that have occurred to us. Injure your cells in equal measure as those other two guys. He quantified on a peer-reviewed scientific basis that what's in your head can cause your body to be dysfunctional. Subsequently, there were studies that showed anxiety and depression produces inflammation. So when you have the cell danger response, what the cell does is it does several things to kill whatever's in there. It prevents the bug from leaving. It turns the internal environment toxic temporarily to kill whatever's in there. You can't use your vitamins. You hold on to heavy metals, toxic metals. But once that resolves, we have mechanisms that reboot the cell function and becomes normal again. Let me tell you how that would feel. You get strep throat. You feel terrible. You go to the doctor, strep throat, gives you an antibiotic. A couple of days, but then you start feeling a little bit better. Then there's that day where you turn the corner and you get better rapidly. That's when the cell danger response has resolved itself. Okay, and this normal cell function. That's all well and good. But what happens when you get multiple inputs that cause the cell danger response and it becomes chronic? Well, those cells, the mitochondria especially, their function drops. There is function there, but the average function drops. You may be working at 75%. Anything on top of that is going to drag you down further. And when you're working, let's say it's 70, 75%, again, I'm just pulling these numbers out of the air as an example.
No.
You're living, you're looking at people, but other things are happening that you can't resolve. Okay. Essentially, chronic cell danger response creates chronic inflammation, which is also oxidative stress, same thing. And that is the base reason for many different diseases. And there's no question about that. Okay, so I had in my early career, I had real confidence in medicine. And then when I saw the patients not improving, I started dumping good, jumping into why. And then I noticed that this cellular dysfunction was not being resolved. So I developed a way of thinking about it, which included genetics and that neuroendoimmunology paradigm and considering mitochondrial function and the cell membrane integrity. And I started developing ways of restoring normal cell function, hence making the terrain or the foundation of the body work again. And that was the linchpin. That's what wasn't being done and what people needed. And they started getting better and better, and sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but for the most part, they got better because that was the stone left unturned. I called it foundational treatment as a beginning. Of course, when you do that, then you have to start attending to everything else because when something's chronic, just getting rid of the root causes, Lyme disease, fungi, whatever, is not going to resolve the symptom complex because what has happened over time, there's been some damage, reversible damage, because you're just not getting what you need to fix it. And there's been, if you're talking about neurotransmitters and mood disorders, if you have low serotonin and depression, they give you an SSRI, which is a reuptake inhibitor, which means that it prevents some of the reabsorption of serotonin, but it does nothing for the production of it. So at some point, that medicine's going to fail because the original reason has not been attended to. And that was all in that whole foundational paradigm. I look at somebody if they have leaky gut, which a lot of people have, their guts aren't working very well. So just talking serotonin, 80% of your serotonin is made in your gut. It's not going to be produced, and you're going to start having less and less and less serotonin. Eventually, you're going to have symptoms. That serotonin reuptake inhibitor is going to prevent more loss, but at some point, there's not going to be enough serotonin even with that. So then they start changing medications. The difficulty there is when medical science, they don't look at the causation at a biochemical or cellular level. And that's the difference in what I do. Um, we call it used to be called CAM, complementary and alternative medicine. Now we call it functional medicine because we're looking at the function of the body. And what my contribution has been over time is looking at the foundation and mystery illnesses. My entire practice is complex multifactorial illnesses that have been here, there, and everywhere, and have not, things haven't been good. They have, maybe sometimes they got better, but they got worse. In essence, they're not improving. They're not able to live their lives. And that's what motivated me. Okay. I did it with my son. I'm dad. Let's face it, he doesn't really listen to me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And we worked with an integrated psychiatrist who knew this stuff as well. But he became functional again. He's not disabled. The only thing he doesn't do is drive, and I don't blame him. Okay, he's not disabled. He's got a full-time job. He's excellent at what he does. He's well respected. They they consult him because he knows all the different programs and how to work them and so forth. He's an incredible artist and an incredibly intelligent man. He's living a good life. If it went the normal way, he would have been on more medicines and he would have been disabled. He was offered disability. He refused it, and he lives a good life now. So you need to know that things like anxiety, depression, ADHD, those things are the result of something. They're not diagnoses, by the way.
Right.
Depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. So something funny today. ODD, what was it? Oppositional, something about a poodle. It's like, okay. It's like, that's pretty interesting. Schizophrenia, any of the autism spectrum disorders. Okay. They are lists of symptoms. Why aren't they diagnoses? Well, if you have a sore throat, that's a symptom. If you have strep throat, now I know why you have a sore throat. If I diagnose you with OCD, that only tells me that your brain's moving at a mile a minute. It doesn't tell me why. There was the big divide. They would do things to control that, however, benzodiazepine, so forth and so on. And the pathology that created it continued until the person got hurt worse or they weren't able to control it with various medications. When I started looking at it from the inside out, so to speak, I was able to resolve these conditions. Or when people were on numerous psychiatric medicines, I would work with the medical physician, and as I improved their base functions, the medical physician would decrease the medicines incrementally. So somebody who's on 5 different medicines, a year later, they're on one medicine at a minimal dosage. You're not going to convince a doctor of medicine to not prescribe medicine. That's their armamentarium, and they're good at it. But when they understand what we're doing together, our different points of view together can heal people. Okay.
I don't want to waste a minute more without addressing the fact that, first of all, thank you for your service because we didn't get a chance to
Thank you.
address that. And you kind of answered my question, but I would like for you to go into a little detail here because I'm thinking it has to do with family. I'm thinking that's the answer.
Sure.
So, what keeps you motivated?
What keeps me motivated is two or three basic things. I adore helping people. I always have. And my I'm in practice on my own. I'm a single practitioner. And my normal intake takes 90 minutes, and I can spend the time with my patients that other physicians can't. Not won't, can't. So I find things that they don't because I take the time to do a long history and know what when people are saying something, what it might mean. So it's a real joy for me to have somebody who is terrified, who's frightened, who's been basically told this is your lot in life, or everybody thinks there's nothing wrong with me, to find out what it is. That motivates me big time. Being able to take, and I only give you kind of a little inkling into the knowledge base I have, to be able to take that and present it to other practitioners of traditional and non-traditional medicine and watch them get that gestalt, like you see the light bulb, bink, okay. And
Right.
sometimes I get an email a year later saying, I was thinking about this, and guess what? This person, they were my nightmare case and they were getting better. That's like a band outside, cheering for me. That's very good, you know. And I enjoy it. I just enjoy putting these puzzle pieces together. I'm constantly learning. I am looking for things that, are being couched as chronic illnesses. I hate to be conspiracy theory wise, but let's face facts. There's more money in treating cancer than there's more money in treating cancer than curing it.
Absolutely.
Same thing with long COVID now. They're letting that become a chronic illness, even though it can be resolved. I know I wrote a paper on it. Okay. So in essence, um, what I like people to really understand is that you know, if you've been, if you have a chronic illness, the thing you want to do is step back and say, there may be an answer here. Because right now, this fear factor is way up there. And when you're afraid or you're just confused, it turns your immune system off. That's not even a question. It does. When somebody understands what's wrong, then they can start healing. Okay. Lots of times your body's not working against you and you think it is. It's trying to protect you. Autoimmune diseases are a result of something. So your symptoms are a result of something, not primary things unto themselves. If you start thinking about that, healing becomes possible when the moment things start to make sense.
Hmm.
And if I can get that across, when I get that across to my patients, so my practitioners that I treat, that I share all this information with, when it makes sense, especially my medical doctor friends, as soon as they see the pathway, they say, oh, okay, because I talk in their language, and with algorithms to begin with, before they expand out, they see it, they connect it. Okay, they're not stupid, and they really care. They're as frustrated as you are. So this is a real joy for me, just sharing this kind of stuff.
No, it's actually very insightful, and I'm thinking about a few people right now that are going through a situation that I will be sure to refer them over to you. Um, but for everybody else that's listening, where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you right now, or get in touch with you?
Mhm. Sure. Well, my website is drjessarmine.com. It's up here somewhere. Okay, and there you can learn a little bit about me. But you go to the bottom of the page, off to the left-hand side, there's a button you can press that you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation. What I do there is we get to talk to one another because it's on Zoom. I can tell you, look you square in the face and say, yes, I can help this, or no, it's outside my wheelhouse. Plus, we can see if we get along. Okay, because that's really important.
Right.
If you go to my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Jess Armine, like you see up here, okay, I have done videos upon videos upon videos. You're welcome to them. The information is not proprietary. You can share it with anybody. I just want people to get better. I just started Instagram, which is Dr. Jess Online 724, which is my birthday. Okay. And I'm putting out all the stuff on the podcast and other things. And that's something I'm really getting excited about because I'm not a digital, I'm not a techie. I'm like, oh, I understand it. It's good stuff. You know?
Well, Dr. Armine, I you inspired me to do something, and I may do it, but I don't want to put it out there, to the audience just yet. But you inspired me to do something, and then I'll talk to you about that after. But
Sure.
it has been my pleasure to have you, and I definitely want to have
And
you
my
back
honor.
on to talk more. I definitely want to have you back because it's refreshing. It's refreshing to make sense of things and to understand them. I hope it's an open invitation anytime you want to
It
talk about
is.
things.
I would be honored. I would
Please,
be honored.
please do.
Seriously.
And with that being said, guys, please reach out. Dr. Armine, I feel like I unlocked the next level of knowledge just sitting here and listening and absorbing all this information. So I can imagine everything else that you have wandering around in your head for the next period of time.
That's how I got bald, by the way. It's like, what hair? Try genetics. Forget the hair. Let it go. Okay. Let it just shine.
I love it. I love it. I love the energy. Please join us. Please catch us, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you.
Listen, if this message resonated with you, don't let it stop here. Transformation doesn't happen from watching. It happens from action. If you're ready to level up your mindset, your habits, and your life, I've created something for you. Tap the link below and join my free podcast and community where growth isn't just talked about, it's lived. Surround yourself with people who are building, evolving, and pushing forward. And if you haven't already, subscribe, stay connected, and commit to becoming the strongest version of yourself. This is your moment. Let's grow.
Every day is a blessing. The time we spent together. All we can do is promote change. 24 hours better.